The grand hall of the Karathi Empire was a place of beauty and fear. The ceiling shimmered like glass, alive with moving lights that danced like stars trapped inside crystal. Hundreds of alien nobles stood silent around the circular court, their scaled skin glowing faintly in the blue light. The air smelled sharp, like metal and ozone. At the center stood a single human. Captain Elias Ward, officer of the Terran Alliance, kept his chin high. His uniform was torn, one sleeve missing, a burn mark across his chest plate. His eyes were tired but steady. He had faced plasma fire and vacuum storms, but this silent judgment felt heavier. On the throne ahead, Queen Velora of the Karathi sat in cold elegance. Her skin was a deep violet, her long silver crown shimmering with faint energy. Beside her stood a small boy, the Prince Kareth. The child's face was pale, frightened, and his eyes were no longer silver. They glowed faintly gold, human gold. The Queen's voice broke the silence, sharp and echoing. "Why is my grandchild calling you a monster, human?" Every noble in the hall turned their eyes to Elias. The sound of their tails brushing against the marble floor was like dry leaves in wind. No one dared to speak. The Queen's question was not a request, it was an accusation. Elias swallowed, his throat dry. "Your Majesty," he said quietly. "The boy isn't wrong, but he's not right either." The Queen's silver eyes narrowed. "Explain." Elias looked at the child. 2 days ago, when your fleet was attacked by the Dominion swarm, the Prince's escape pod was hit. I found him inside, no air, hull breached. He was dying. You had no authority to touch him," hissed one of the nobles. "A human hand on royal blood is the death sentence," Elias finished, calm but firm. "Yes, I know your laws, but laws mean nothing when a child is dying in your hands." A murmur spread through the court. The Queen raised her hand, silencing them. "What did you do to my grandchild, human?" Her voice was calm, but it trembled beneath. Elias took a breath. "I gave him a part of myself." The words dropped into the hall like a stone into still water. Shock rippled through the nobles. Some gasped, others hissed. "You infected him," shouted a guard. Elias shook his head slowly. "I saved him." He told them what happened. How the Dominion fighters had torn open the escape pod. How Kareth's body was freezing in seconds, his blood crystallizing. Human technology, Terran nanites, were built to keep soldiers alive in vacuum and radiation. He had no medkit, no oxygen. Only his emergency nanite injector. He used it on the Prince. The nanites had rebuilt the alien boy's cells, adapting them, keeping him alive when every rule of biology said he should die. But Karathi cells and human nanites were never meant to mix. The result was change. Now the Prince's eyes shone gold. His heartbeat was faster. He was stronger. He could breathe longer, heal faster. And yet, when he saw Elias afterward, the child had screamed, "Monster!" Elias understood. To the boy, he must have looked terrifying. Bloodied, desperate, forcing strange needles into his body. But he didn't regret it. "I didn't harm him," Elias said finally, his voice low. "I saved his life. If that makes me a monster, then I'll accept the name." The Queen rose from her throne. Her long robe whispered across the floor. She came closer, each step echoing through the chamber. The guards tensed, hands on their plasma blades. The Queen stopped just a few feet from him. "Show me your arm," she commanded. Elias obeyed. He unrolled his sleeve, revealing the faint blue glow of nanite lines under his skin. Thin, living veins of light that pulsed gently. The Queen stared at them, fascinated and disgusted. "So this is human science," she said softly. "You turn your bodies into machines." "Not machines," Elias replied. "We make them stronger, so we can survive what others can't." Her eyes hardened. "You forced your corruption into royal blood. I gave him a chance to live. By turning him into you?" Elias said nothing. Around them, the nobles hissed and whispered. Words like abomination, contamination, execution floated through the air. The Queen raised her hand again, silencing them. The Prince whimpered. "Grandmother!" His voice was small, trembling. He made the pain go away. The Queen turned to the child, her expression softening. "Do you feel unwell?" Kareth shook his head slowly. "No, but I see things now. Hear things. I can feel the machines in the air." His small fingers trembled. "And when I look at him," he pointed at Elias, "I feel him inside me. It's scary." The Queen's voice wavered. "You see now, human? Even the child fears what you've done." Elias nodded slowly. I understand. Fear is natural, but fear doesn't mean wrong, Your Majesty. It means change. It means something new. Guards moved closer, ready to take him away. Elias didn't resist. He could see where this was heading. Interrogation, maybe death. He looked at the Queen one last time. I didn't do it for honor or power, he said. I did it because I couldn't watch a child die. Not when I had a way to stop it. The Queen stared at him in silence. For a long moment there was no sound but the hum of the crystalline walls. Finally she spoke. You will be confined until the council decides your fate. The guards seized him, dragging him back. Elias didn't struggle. His boots echoed on the floor as he was led out of the grand hall, past rows of staring eyes. Some looked at him with hatred, others in curiosity. As the heavy doors closed behind him, he caught one last glimpse of Kyreth. The boy's eyes met his, half fear, half confusion, and something else, gratitude. The cell was cold and dim. Blue lights blinked along the walls, tracking his movements. Elias sat on the floor, back against the wall, thinking. His arm still glowed faintly from the nanite surge. He flexed his hand, watching the light shift beneath his skin. He had been through worse. Wars, alien jungles, radiation storms. But this was different. This time his enemy wasn't a creature or a machine. It was fear, ancient and proud. The Karathi were a species that prized purity above all else. To them, contamination was worse than death. They saw humanity as reckless, a young race that bent life itself to survive. And now he had proven their fears true. He closed his eyes. Maybe I am a monster, he murmured to himself. But at least I'm a monster who saves. Outside the cell, 2 Karathi guards spoke quietly. Why risk his life for a child not his own? One asked. The other shrugged. Humans are strange. They fight without reason. No, said the first. They fight for reasons we can't understand. Hours passed. Then the door slid open with a sharp hiss. A figure entered, tall, armored in white. It was the Queen's advisor, Lord Thal. His long spines glittered in the dim light. Captain Ward, he said coldly. The Queen wants more answers. Elias stood. Lead the way. They walked through long corridors of crystal and light. Outside the windows the stars burned bright and distant ships glided past. The war wasn't over. The Dominion swarm was still out there, hungry for destruction. Yet here they were, wasting time on politics and fear. The Queen waited for him in a private chamber this time. No audience, no throne, no ceremony, only her and the prince. Kareth sat beside her, looking down, fidgeting with his fingers. Captain, said the Queen softly. I've read your reports from the front. You've saved thousands of lives. But this, she gestured toward her grandson, that is something else. Why would you risk so much for one child? Elias met her gaze. Because one life matters. It doesn't matter whose it is. She studied him for a long time. Your people truly believe that? He smiled faintly. We have to. We don't live long enough to believe anything else. The Queen said nothing. The prince looked up at Elias, his golden eyes flickering faintly. Does it hurt? The boy asked. Elias knelt down. Sometimes. But pain reminds you that you're alive, and that means you still have a chance. The Queen watched, silent and thoughtful. For the first time she didn't look angry, only unsure. That night rumors spread through the palace. Some said the Queen would execute the human at dawn. Others said she planned to study him, to use his strange human science for her armies. But none knew the truth. In the quiet of her private chamber, Queen Valora stood by the window, staring at the stars. Her grandchild slept nearby, breathing softly, alive because of the human she had called a monster. Captain Elias Ward did not know how long he had been inside the Karathi prison. There were no clocks, no windows, no sun or moon to tell time, only the cold hum of the energy walls and the slow beat of his own heart. He sat on the metal floor, back against the wall, staring at his reflection in the polished crystal. His eyes looked older than he remembered. The faint blue lines of nanites under his skin still glowed softly, reminding him of what he had done. He had saved a life, a royal one. And now that same act might cost him his own. The door opened with a sharp hiss. 2 guards entered, their armor shining under the pale light. Between them stood a tall alien in elegant robes, Lord Thal, the Queen's chief advisor. The Queen will see you, Thal said, his voice smooth but cold. Do not speak unless spoken to. Elias rose slowly, his muscles stiff. I didn't realize I had a choice. The guards didn't reply. They led him through long, glowing corridors where alien servants turned away at his passing. Even here, surrounded by beauty, he could feel the fear. The Karathi weren't used to humans, especially not ones who changed royal blood. The queen waited for him in her private chamber again, the same place as before. But this time she wasn't alone. Around her were several nobles, healers, and scientists, and in the center, sitting quietly on a medical chair, was Prince Kareth. The boy's appearance made Elias freeze. Kareth's skin glowed faintly with gold veins, like light beneath glass. His silver hair had streaks of soft bronze, and his once slender arms now looked stronger. His eyes still carried that human gold shine, bright and aware. He was changing. The human nanites had merged deeper than Elias expected. The queen turned to him. Her expression was unreadable. You see what your interference has done? Elias looked at the boy, not with regret but with wonder. He's alive. He looks healthy. He is different, the queen snapped. My healers say his cells have transformed. He no longer breathes as we do. His blood carries light instead of crystals. That means the nanites are still active, Elias said, almost to himself. They're helping him adapt. The queen stepped closer. Adapt to what? To become human? To lose what he is? Elias met her gaze calmly. To survive. Her eyes hardened. Our people have survived for 10,000 years without your help. Until now, he said quietly. Until the Dominion swarm. The nobles hissed at his words, but Elias didn't flinch. He had seen what the swarm did. Whole cities consumed, planets stripped bare. The Karathi might be proud, but even pride couldn't stop extinction. One of the healers spoke. Your Majesty, the child's transformation cannot be reversed. Removing the nanites will kill him. The queen closed her eyes briefly. Then you have doomed him to a half-life. No, Elias said. I've given him a chance to live a full one. She turned sharply. How dare you speak of life when you've corrupted it? I didn't corrupt him, Elias said softly. I saved him, and one day maybe that will save all of you. The room went silent. Everyone stared at him. Even the prince looked uncertain. Elias continued. You think I turned him into a monster? But maybe he's something new, something better. You call me unnatural because I use nanites, because I change what I am to survive. But that's what humanity is, we adapt. That's why we're still alive when others burned. Kareth tilted his head. Adapt, he whispered, testing the word. Elias smiled faintly. It means to become what you need to be, no matter how hard it hurts. The queen's hands tightened around her staff. Enough, take him back. As the guards moved forward, Kareth suddenly stood. No! His voice rang clear, strong. The guards stopped, surprised. The queen turned to him, shocked. Kareth, I don't feel sick anymore, the boy said. I can see energy lines in the walls. I can hear things no one else can. I feel alive. Why do you all hate him for that? Because he changed you, one noble said sharply. Maybe change isn't bad, Kareth said. Maybe that's how we win. His words hung in the air like a challenge. The queen looked at him, her expression unreadable, then waved her hand. Enough, the human will remain confined. I will decide his fate later. Elias gave the boy one last nod before the guards took him away. That night, Elias sat in his cell again, but this time he wasn't alone. The door opened quietly and Kareth slipped inside, his small figure glowing faintly in the dim light. Prince, Elias said softly, standing. You shouldn't be here. I wanted to see you, the boy said. Grandmother doesn't know. Elias knelt down, lowering himself to the child's height. You're changing faster than I expected. How do you feel? Kareth hesitated. Different. I can move things without touching them sometimes. I can make machines wake up when I look at them. That's the nanites, Elias said. They link with your mind, but they also link with the world around you. You'll need to control it. Kareth looked worried. Will I become like you? Elias smiled faintly. No, Kareth. You'll become something greater. The boy frowned. Then why do they call you a monster? Because humans scare people, Elias said honestly. We do what others won't, we take risks. We break rules to save lives. That makes us dangerous. Kareth looked at his hands, glowing faintly. I don't want to be dangerous. Elias placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Then be kind, be strong. Prove them wrong, the boy nodded slowly. I will. Before they could speak more, the alarm blared. a deep rumbling sound that shook the walls. Red lights flashed through the corridor. The guards shouted outside, "What's happening?" Kareth cried. Elias listened carefully. The sound was too familiar. The high-pitched pulse, the tremor of orbital strikes. "It's an attack," he said grimly. "The Dominions found this planet." The door slid open violently. A guard stumbled inside, bleeding, his armor scorched. "Get the prince out," he shouted before collapsing. Elias reacted instantly. He grabbed the guard's fallen weapon and looked at Kareth. "Stay close to me." They ran through the corridors. Explosions shook the palace, glass shattering, smoke filling the air. The alien lights flickered, struggling to stay alive. Through the windows, Elias saw burning ships falling from the sky. The Dominion had come in full force. Kareth stumbled. Elias lifted him, shielding him from the heat as a plasma bolt tore through the wall. "We need to reach the Queen," he said. They reached the throne room. The doors were already open. Guards lay dead on the marble floor, their armor melting from plasma burns. The Queen stood at the center, her crown cracked, her energy staff glowing fiercely as she fought two Dominion drones. Elias jumped in, firing the fallen guard's weapon. The drones exploded in blue fire. Smoke filled the room. The Queen turned, shock and relief in her eyes. "You," she said. "How did you—" "No time," Elias interrupted. "They're inside the palace. You need to evacuate." The Queen's voice was cold but calm. "We do not run." Elias pointed at Kareth. "Then he dies here." That made her pause. Another explosion shook the hall. Cracks spread across the crystal ceiling. Kareth's eyes glowed brighter, gold light spilling out of them. "I can stop them," he whispered. "No." The Queen shouted, but Elias saw it. The nanites were awake. The boy raised his hands and the broken machines around them began to rise. Shards of drones, metal fragments, energy cells, all floating in the air like dust caught in a storm. Elias felt the air hum. The shards fused together, forming a barrier around them as plasma blasts struck and vanished. Kareth's small body trembled, but his face stayed calm. The Queen stared in awe. "What is he doing?" "Protecting us," Elias said softly. "He's adapting." When the attack ended, silence fell again. The palace was ruined, but the Queen, her grandson, and Elias still stood. The barrier slowly faded and Kareth collapsed. Elias caught him before he hit the floor. "He's just exhausted," Elias said quickly. "He saved us all." The Queen knelt beside them. For the first time, Elias saw fear. Not for herself, but for the boy. "What has he become?" she whispered. Elias met her eyes. "Hope." Hours later, in the medical wing, Kareth slept peacefully. The Queen stood at his bedside, silent. Elias waited nearby under guard. Finally, she spoke. "He should not have this power." "He shouldn't be alive either," Elias said. "But he is." She turned to him slowly. "You risked your life for my bloodline. You defied our laws, our science, our pride. Why?" "Because that's what humans do," Elias said. "We save people, even when they hate us for it." The Queen studied him for a long time. "Perhaps that's what makes your kind dangerous." "Or maybe," Elias said quietly, "that's what makes us human." Later, when night fell again, Elias stood by the window of his new quarters, no longer a prison, but not freedom either. Outside, the stars burned quietly, and the wrecks of the Dominion fleet drifted in orbit. The Queen had not spoken of his punishment. No one knew what would happen next. But for the first time since arriving, Elias felt something different in the palace air. Not fear, not hate, but curiosity. The Karathi had seen what humanity's monstrous technology could do. And the Queen had seen her grandson save an empire with human fire in his veins. In the silent sky, Elias whispered to himself, "Maybe monsters aren't born. Maybe they're made when the universe needs them most." The stars burned cold and distant as the Dominion swarm descended on the Karathi capital world. From orbit, the swarm ships moved like a living tide, thousands of dark vessels blotting out the view of moons and suns. The Karathi fleets bristled in response, energy shields glowing blue and green. But even the largest dreadnoughts looked fragile against the overwhelming numbers. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of a damaged Karathi cruiser. His armor was scorched, his uniform torn, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Beside him, Prince Kareth adjusted the flow of energy lines radiating from his nanite-enhanced body. The boy no longer trembled. He had grown taller, stronger, and more in control of the power flowing through him. Are you sure you can do this? Elias asked quietly. The fleets can't hold them for long. Kareth looked at him, golden eyes glowing faintly. I can, but I will need your help, Elias nodded. Then let's show them what humanity can do. In the palace, Queen Velora watched the skies from the highest balcony, her long silver hair blowing in the wind. Her hands gripped the crystal railing. She had summoned her generals and advisors, but she barely heard their words. Her mind was fixed on the human she had condemned and the boy she loved. She had called him a monster, but now she wondered if he was the only one who could save them. Below, the first wave of Dominion bombers struck the surface. Buildings shook and fires erupted across the capital city. The Karathi shields held for a few moments, then flickered under the swarm's relentless assault. The Queen's soldiers faltered. Elias ran through the corridors of the palace, Kareth beside him. Guards and aides tried to stop them. You cannot leave, they shouted. Elias ignored them. We have to reach the fleet, he said. We can't stop them here. Kareth's fingers glowed as he moved small shards of metal, broken drones, discarded weapons, into floating clusters that followed them. I'll protect us, he said, but you need to get me to the ships. The corridors twisted, glowing with emergency lights, smoke curling around broken doors and ceilings. Explosions rattled the walls. Yet the boy's focus never wavered. Each step he took seemed to pull more energy into himself. The nanites in his veins hummed like a song only he could hear. Finally, they reached the docking bay. The fleet was in chaos. Ships were firing blindly at the dark swarm above. Terran pilots and Karathi soldiers shouted over comms, warning each other of incoming strikes. Get me to the command ship, Elias yelled, scanning the area for the fastest vessel. Kareth nodded, concentrating. The floating metal shards around him began forming a crude but strong transport pod. The boy's control over the nanites was extraordinary, more than Elias had ever seen. As they entered the pod, a swarm fighter exploded nearby, sending shards of plasma past them. Kareth held his hands forward, lifting the falling debris and forming a shield around them. Elias felt the pull of the energy, the sheer power that flowed from human and alien nanites working together. You're ready, he said. Now let's turn this tide. The command ship hovered above the battle, its shields flickering from relentless strikes. Elias and Kareth entered the ship's bridge, met by stunned Karathi officers. The Queen's voice came through comms, calm but urgent. You've come, she said. Do what humans do. Elias glanced at Kareth. The boy's glow had grown stronger. He could feel the energy of the swarm, millions of ships moving like one mind. Kareth raised his hands, and through the nanites he linked to the ship's systems. Lights flickered as control shifted. The human-tech hybrid flowed through the alien circuits seamlessly. Weapons powered up, shields stabilized. The Dominion swarm faltered as automated defenses reacted faster than the attackers could predict. Hold on, Elias shouted. We're taking them head on. In orbit, the battle became chaotic. Swarm ships collided with Karathi cruisers. Explosions lit up space. And yet, with Kareth's power enhancing every system, each Karathi ship seemed faster, stronger, smarter. The boy floated above the command deck, glowing with golden light. He could see the enemy's weak points before they fired, redirecting their energy streams, disabling their weapons with pulses of nanite energy. Every human tactic Elias had taught him, improvisation, adaptation, rapid reaction, now flowed through the boy's veins. Elias shouted orders, and the Karathi fleet followed them instinctively, trusting the monster who had once been condemned. Ships maneuvered like living creatures, coordinated in a way no Karathi fleet had ever achieved before. The Dominion ships faltered, confusion spreading through their ranks. On the battlefield, the Queen watched in disbelief. She had expected human recklessness to fail, but she saw Elias and Kareth coordinating the defense with surgical precision. Her fear shifted into awe. Perhaps the human she had called a monster truly was the only hope. She spoke aloud, almost to herself. If he truly is a monster, then perhaps monsters are what we need. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Kareth paused. He felt the pull of the swarm, a deep, dark hunger that threatened to overwhelm his mind. Elias grabbed his shoulder. Focus, you control this, not them. Kareth's eyes narrowed. He drew energy from the nanites in his body, linking further with the ship systems and nearby Karathi vessels. Like a conductor of a cosmic orchestra, he sent precise waves of energy to disable incoming enemy weapons, redirect plasma streams, and protect the ships carrying civilians. Move faster, Elias barked to the fleet. Use every ship you've got. Kareth's hands glowed brighter, golden light spilling across the control panels. He focused, shaping energy shields and projectiles simultaneously. The Dominion swarm, once a dark tide, began breaking apart. Ships collided, systems overloaded, and panic spread across the enemy ranks. One by one, the swarm retreated, fleeing from the combined human and Karathi defense. When the final wave of Dominion ships fell, silence returned to orbit. Smoke and debris floated between the stars. The Karathi fleet, battered but victorious, hovered in triumph. And at the center of it all, Elias and Kareth stood on the command bridge, exhausted but alive. Kareth looked at Elias. "We did it," he whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "You did it. I just showed you the way." The Queen appeared on the bridge hologram, her eyes soft but proud. "You have proven yourself, human. And my grandson, you have surpassed even my expectations." Kareth's eyes flickered gold and silver, glowing softly. He smiled, tired but confident. "I only did what you taught me." "And what he showed me." The Queen's expression shifted. "Perhaps I have been too quick to judge. Perhaps humanity is not just reckless. Perhaps it is necessary," Elias nodded. "Sometimes, Your Majesty, the universe needs monsters. Monsters who fight for life." The Queen's lips curved slightly. "Then you are a monster we will accept." Later, on the palace balcony, Elias and Kareth looked down at the capital below. Fires had been extinguished, civilians rescued, the city beginning to heal. The boy's golden veins dimmed slightly as his nanites settled back into quiet hums. He turned to Elias. "Do you think they will ever call me a monster again?" Kareth asked, faint worry in his voice. Elias smiled. "Only if the galaxy forgets what you did today. But anyone who calls you that now will know the truth. You are more human than most humans I've met." Kareth laughed softly. It was the first time since the attack that he felt truly safe. "Then I guess monsters can be heroes," Elias nodded. "Exactly. And sometimes monsters are the only ones who can save the universe." The Queen approached them at last. Her silver crown gleamed in the sunlight. "Captain Ward, you came into my world as a stranger, as a human, and you changed everything. You were called a monster, yet you saved my people, my grandson, and perhaps even the galaxy. I owe you more than words." Elias inclined his head. "I don't need thanks. I only did what humans do. Fight to live and fight to save others." The Queen studied him, then finally said, "Then perhaps humanity is not a mistake. Perhaps it is the key we have been missing all along." Kareth's golden eyes met Elias's. "We are a team," he whispered. Elias chuckled. "A human and a Karathi prince. Monsters by some, heroes by others." Above them the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself acknowledged the unlikely bond. And in that moment, humanity had proven once again that it could rise against impossible odds, not as conquerors, but as saviors. The galaxy would remember the human who became a monster, and the boy who became more than either species could imagine.